We visit, believe it or not, Richard, the North is not a different country, and stress is not regional. Stress at the moment is global. As you know, our client base is almost exclusively professional services firms worldwide. And during the last lockdown, I had a really interesting interview with an HR director, a global HR director for a global strategy firm. And at the end of the conversation, he just downloaded with all of the sort of stressful things that were impacting him. And I wrote them up on an article, which is on our website, called Blocked in Lockdown. And I think it's worth revisiting those because, or a few of them, because they're even more critical at the moment. And a number of things that Elliot brought up and that Robert brought up link into essentially something we've been talking about a lot recently on keynote speeches and with development programs, which is about the role of the partner. And we've often said that there are three roles of a partner, which is to exemplify the brand, to embody the culture, and to ensure the legacy. And exemplifying the brand comes into the marketing piece, which I'll maybe pick up later on. But embodying the culture has a lot to do with role modeling and with and has an impact on the stress. So some of the key things that we've seen the impact of lockdown and remote working, firstly, is this culture of permanently available. Everybody thinks that everybody else, particularly senior people, is permanently available. And the more the senior people demonstrate that they are permanently available, the more everyone else expects that they're supposed to be permanently available, and the more stressful that can become. Those who are familiar with Victorian history will be aware of panopticism, Bentham's Panoptic Tower, where basically people under observation went crazy because they thought they were being observed all the time. A similar thing there. The other thing we've noticed, and this is more recently I've noticed, is that there is initially people were very tolerant from remote working and Zoom calls. And I've noticed that level of tolerance has decreased. So people are becoming actually less tolerant of the cat sitting on the desk, or people bursting into the room, or people being half dressed. And also I've noticed, and I've tested this with a number of our clients worldwide in accounting, law and consulting, people are becoming, there seems to be a decline in sort of common courtesies and manners and professionalism. And I'm wondering if it's because people are working remotely, there's less likelihood of getting punched on the nose if you're rude. There's a really interesting New York Times article called We're All Socially Awkward Now, which talks about how difficult people are going to find it when they actually go back to face-to-face. There are going to be some very uncomfortable meetings because social skills in lockdown have declined. People are losing their social skills, and the re-entry is going to be difficult. It's going to be a bit like people being released from being a hostage. The other sort of things we've noticed are the can you hear me syndrome, meaning that everybody on a Zoom has to be here and has to make a contribution. So the conversations are often overloaded. We've noticed the Machiavellian politics, informal networks are having much more influence. The sort of standard decision-making processes are being shortcut. Thinking's often being outsourced to Google, often during the call where people will look up an answer on Google. Fractured governance, regular processes are disrupted. The sort of sorry to ring again syndrome, but I know you're there. So we've got now WhatsApp, we've got Slack, various instant messaging. And so the number of interruptions each day are enormous, and people are feeling constantly under pressure. So stress is global, not regional. How do you reduce it? Well, the partners have and I'm going to just finish on the role of the partner in a moment. Firstly, the partners have to exemplify, embody the culture. So they've got to set an example. They've got to take a break. They've got to set clear boundaries and be aware of the pressure that's exerted by their behavior on the people who report to them. Equally, I did a keynote for a global network of accounting and law firms earlier this week. And I talked about the role of emotional intelligence. Elliot mentioned empathy earlier on, and Robert mentioned the word as well. Empathy, people developing empathy, generally empathetic reactions come from picking up nonverbal signals, which are much easier when you're face to face. When you're on Zoom or on a video call, you're relying on picking up micro expressions, and the pixelated nature of the screen and the nature of broadband makes those much harder to identify. So I ran a set of 20 slides and I ran a poll asking the participants, there were about 300, to identify the emotion expressed by the micro expression. And we only got about 50% success rate at best, because it's just so hard to do. So be tolerant, be empathetic, and think about common courtesies. One final comment then to finish is the poll result. And I'm going to be provocative here. I wonder if the poll results on the role of the importance of marketing are a function of the partners being a little nervous about having the intimate client conversations themselves and outsourcing that to marketing.